thank you for having me at your club meeting. It's always a fun thing to do. I've done these all over the western United States, and this is my favorite. I've done several different presentations on spring creeks and small stream fishing, still water, stuff like that, but my favorite is the spring creeks, and that's the presentation we'll give tonight. And the fly I'm going to tie right now has nothing to do with spring creeks. How many of you subscribe to Fly Tire? Okay, did you, in your recent issue in August, did you see my article in there?
I haven't read that.
Kind of the first of its kind. It's a dry, articulated, an articulated dry fly. It's stone fly. It's called the booty shaker for obvious reasons. The whole idea behind the booty shaker was to get some realistic action in the fly itself when it's on the water, as it floats in the microcurrents and such, and shows, so the abdomen moves. And that was the whole point. And so we'll tie that fly if I can remember how. I haven't tied one of these for a while, so bear with me a little bit. Let's see if I've got something there that's going to do that job. You have to work. Okay, first off, this is a big fly. I'll tie a salmon fly imitation because it's a big fly, easy for you to see while I tie it. And I'll start off here with, we'll get rid of that. I don't need it on these big flies. There we go. This is a 55 millimeter fish skull articulated shank, which is used for tying articulated streamers. That's why they designed this shank, was to use for articulated streamers. The idea for this fly came from actually a fellow angler up by where I live that he found one similar on the internet and tied one up, and I liked the concept. I didn't much like the fly that he tied. Just a lot of different reasons there, but I liked the concept because I'd never heard of an articulated dry fly. Anybody ever seen an articulated dry fly? No. It's just a new concept, isn't it? We've been doing it with nymphs and streamers for a lot of years now, but not with dry flies. So we're going to come in here with this bright orange thread. What I want to accentuate here with this thread, this color, is the segmentations with a salmon fly. They're a bright orange, orangish red, yellow orange. It depends on the water and where you're at. And so we want to mimic that a little bit. We're going to put some goose biots on here to simulate split tail on a adult salmon fly. And I like to tie them kind of long, not extremely long, but kind of long. And we'll put one on each side. By the way, if you have questions as we go along, just holler. I can tell you right now that the background noise is loud enough that I won't be able to hear you unless you do holler. And so just make sure you let me know if you're having questions as we go along. So we'll tie those in. We're going to tie this with a light body on the bottom, dark on top, which is how most bugs are. Light on bottom, dark on top. We're going to use a salmon colored 2mm foam and a chocolate colored 2mm foam. I'm going to cut a strip for the bottom. You'll have to excuse me because, well, hello. Look, do you see the guy waving in the back? He's your first Utah Hall of Fame fly fisher, Tom Doxey, from last year. Welcome, Tom. Besides that, he's one of my best buddies. Anyway, y'all, I'm glad you guys came. Okay, so first we're going to, this is what I have to have you excuse me for because I can't give you exact measurements. In the article, I've got the exact measurements in fly tire. And so if you don't have that article and you want a step-by-step of what I'm going to show right now, go buy a fly tire. It's still on the shelves, and it's in that book. It's got a muddler minnow on the front from Al Beatty. So I'm going to cut this. This is about a 1/4 inch wide strip of this 2mm foam. And then the chocolate colored one for the top, I'm going to cut that just a hair wider, not much, just a hair. And in my mind, because I have tied so many of these, I kind of know that one's just a little wider than the other. Somebody asked me, why don't you cut those with a razor to get them all even? I said, well, those look pretty even, and when they're on the fly, you can't tell whether they're even or not. So just know that those are the sizes. I always start with a sharp pair of scissors. If you haven't used one of these, how many are buying new scissors every year? Usually every year. Why? Because they get dull. How many of you know how to sharpen them? Most don't. And so here I can show you how to sharpen them. Okay? And this is the most invaluable tool you'll have. You'll just love this tool, and I just run it through there and get my scissors razor sharp. You can talk to me about these afterwards, okay? Because I might have some available. So now we're going to take this foam, and by the way, cutting foam with your scissors really dulls them. I don't know if you knew that, but it really dulls them. We're going to cut just a little bit of a point in this. And do the same thing on the chocolate strip. So first off, we're going to start on the bottom. We're going to put the foam strip facing backwards with that where I cut that, trim that down just a little bit, and I'm just going to tie that down, and I'm going to tie that tag end right tight down flat, and then I'm going to take this back to where the tails start. Now on the top one, we're going to do about the same thing. Sorry, point first. Tie that down. There's a reason I cut the top piece of foam just a little bit bigger, because as you see me, as I put this fly together, once again, I want to get that right tight against those tails. When you see me as I put this fly together, I want the top piece to be just a little bit wider over the bottom piece. The reason being is so that that little edge of that top foam acts like pontoon. and it keeps that fly level in the water. Just some thought that went into this as I was developing this fly. This took me almost 2 years to figure out how I wanted to do this. So now we're going to tie this in increasing size of segments. So we're just going to take that bottom piece of foam, pinch it around there. So I'm just going to take a good tight wrap around that. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll just go back to the top, leave my thread hanging, go back to the top, and pinch that top piece around the bottom piece. That's going to be good. Yep. Okay, so now do you see where that color comes in? The segmentation that's on a natural with that bright orange thread. So now my thread's just hanging there. What do I do next? Well, I take my thread and take it in between the 2 layers, just like that, reattach it to the shank, go back to the bottom, repeat the process. Lather, rinse, repeat right here, okay? Lather, rinse, repeat. And that's all we're doing, is we're going to go up this shank with these segments. And I don't use any glue at this point on this. You really don't need to, but I will at the end. Take it in between, take it off the back, put it back on the shank. Everybody getting the idea how this works now? Now, if you look real close, you'll see right here why the wider foam, see how it overlaps the foam underneath and gives it that little pontoon effect, so this will stay in the right float in the surface film. Foam will float anyway, but might have got my segments just a little bit off. Let's see how big that's going to be if I do it like that.
You weren't planning on tying that?
No. I'm going to tie this Spring Creek stuff I'm going to be talking about. That's okay. This is to me a very interesting fly, because nobody else ties an articulated dry fly, and I'm kind of proud to be able to be the guy that does that, and had a decent article in the Fly Tire. Dave Glissmeyer, Fly Tire. I sent it. I queried the article with him. Said, hey, you interested in something like this? By the way, I just tied that off right there. I'm just going to pinch those 2 pieces together and clip that foam about the same size as that last segment, just like that. And on the top one, I'm going to trim the ears off, just like that. Take those corners and trim them off. See that? On the bottom one, I'm going to do just the opposite. And I'm going to come in and do a little notch. Anyway, I queried Dave Glissmeyer about the article, and he says, I'm intrigued, send it to me. He says, and I'm so intrigued, he says, normally we only have the authors do so many photos step by step. He says, burn up the film. Send me as many step-by-step photos as you can, so that people really understand how to tie this. Well, I get an email one evening, and it's been a couple of months since I heard from Glissmeyer, or since I sent it in. I thought, well, maybe he didn't like it. I don't know, but I hadn't heard from him, so I thought, well, maybe I'll keep trying. Because that wasn't my first time I tried to get an article in with Fly Tire. Next thing I know, I get an email from Glissmeyer, and he says, I just read this, and he says, I'm pretty impressed. He says, is there a way you can, he says, I'll let you know if there's anything I need. And that's just, I just busted off the end of that shank right there. See that? So I don't have the end of that shank on that fly anymore. He says, it looks like it's pretty good. Well, the next morning, I get another email from Glissmeyer, and he says, I haven't had to touch a thing on this article. He says, if you send me one more like this, you've got carte blanche with Fly Tire Magazine going forward. So I'm pretty excited about that. Hopefully I can get some more stuff that you guys will all be able to read in Fly Tire. Let's see. I was past fly tying editor for Fly Fisher, which is not Fly Fisherman, it's Fly Fisher, which is was the membership publication for the Federation of Fly Fishers, but they've changed everything now, and so I don't do that any longer. But I'm still publishing and still getting a little bit of that out there. So you put a drop of super glue right here at the very end. Well, maybe. Looks like my end got plugged up. Looks like my finger's going to get plugged up too. Okay, little drop of cement right there in the end, just to keep that foam on the shank and those tails where they ought to be. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glue right here on the front end. So this is the back end. This is the back end of the. This is the abdomen of the booty shaker. Now we're going to take a number 6, because this is a salmon fly size. We're going to take a number 6 gamakatsu, and this is, trust me, if you don't believe that there's a difference in hooks, this doesn't have anything to do with the strength of the hook or anything like that. This has to do with the shape and size of this hook, so that I have the right size for the thorax of this fly. A bigger hook, it doesn't look right, everything's out of whack. So this size 6 Gamakatsu B10S, which is a stinger hook, which is a trader hook on a streamer. This is the perfect size hook. It's got the right gape here, because of the foam that I'm going to put on it, that it'll still be able to hook fish without that getting in the way. It's a strong hook, and it's got a straight eye, which is something that I really prefer for this fly. We're going to attach the thread, take it right to the back. And this is the articulation point of the program. We'll take some 12-pound Maxima. Just to test, is everybody able to hear me still? I'm still good? Okay. We're going to lay that in so that it's on the top of the hook shank, but off to the far side when I put that first piece down like that. Tie that down and bring it back. Now we'll take the abdomen piece, and you see the eye that from the shank. You can, I think you can see that there, can't you? The eye. We're just going to take that 12-pound test mono, run it right through there, and bring it right. I'm not right now too concerned as to where it's positioned. What I want, and this is why I have the V-notch in the bottom, is so it rides on the hook right, so that it keeps itself from getting all twisted up. Okay. If I didn't put the V-notch in there, this fly took a lot of thought, okay, a lot of experiments to try to get it right so it would be the perfect fly in the end. And to me it is. It's just one of those creations that I was just so excited about. So I'm going to pull this up just a little bit tighter. I want that to rock like that. little bit more. There we go. And then it'll also ride up and down like that. So we'll yeah, there we go. Everybody see how that works? That's the beauty. I can show you right now, when that's on the water, that's doing this, okay? And that's the whole point. It shows life. You add that with the legs, the rubber legs that we'll put on here, and the fish really can't resist it. And I just stuck my finger to my pants with the super glue that was wet on my fingernail. So I'm doing good. I got a hole in my thumb, and I got my fingernail stuck to my pants. So, okay. Now we're going to come in here. I'm going to take a small piece of the foam here. I'm going to cut just a short little piece like that, and I'm actually going to shave it down to a little bit smaller size like that. And I'm going to tie that in right there. Actually, we'll bring it back a little farther. Tie that in right there, and then we're going to fold that over just like that. Now, if you see how I've done that, what this is a ramp that accomplishes two things. Remember, the thought that went into developing this kind of fly, I'm not quite sure how I was able to do it, to be honest with you. It came together. And so this keeps everything from bumping up, jumping up too far, getting tangled on itself, okay? Plus it builds a ramp now for the hair, and I use bleached elk on this. And I have to, you see how long that is. It's some pretty long hair, the bleached elk, and there's a reason, because I need a wing that's going to go from here and actually go back over the back of the abdomen, which is correct for the proportions for a wing on this big stonefly. So you have to find some fairly long bleached elk hair. By the way, I was on 2 weeks ago. I was on the North Fork of the Clearwater. I don't know if anybody's been up there. It's actually quite a drive above Dwarshak Dam, and it truly is true to its name as the Clearwater. Just some of the most beautiful country I've ever been in, and the October caddis hatch is going on. It was crazy, and I had tied some up the night before, staying with mother-in-law in Clarkson, Washington, and this is what I used for the wing on that big number 10 dry fly, that October caddis. And when you combine this color wing with the orange body of an October caddis, then you actually get the right color combination of the fly, the actual fly, because the wings aren't, it's just, trust me, the blonde color is the right color to use for a wing on that October caddis, and the fishing was off the hook. And do we have October caddis around here that you guys fish? Anybody? Up in Idaho, where I'm at, southeastern Idaho, we get a few. The Spring Creek I'm going to show you tonight, I've seen them emerge. They actually crawl up on the edge of the moss and stuff, and they emerge like that, and then they dry their wings and they go skittering off clear across that Spring Creek. And in all the years I've fished it, I've never seen one fish come up and take one of those, not one. This is the first time I ever caught fish on October caddis was on the North Fork of the Clearwater. Okay, so we're going to try to measure that to get as much wing as we can going over the back. I take two, I don't know if you saw that, 2 solid wraps around the butts. I want those to stay and not start rolling over the sides, and then I'm going to really tie those down. Here's a trick when you're tying hair wings on. Always just take your thread and just run it through the butts like that. Don't have to do anything, just run it through the butts like that, and all of a sudden you've not just got one point, but you've got quite a few points where that's hanging onto those hairs. Now we're going to take out the loose ones, okay? About just the right length. Might be just a little short, but I think it's okay. It'll look good, I think, when it's done. We'll trim off those butts and quit trimming off the hair. Kelly, you only have so many. I won't take off my hat to prove it. My wife was bragging to me on the way down about how our oldest son has maintained all his hair. He got his grandpa's hair on her side. I got my grandpa's hair on, my great-grandpa's hair on the Glissmeyer Johnson side, and that great-grandpa was a cue ball. So, okay, now we're just going to go back and get those butts really tied down. You notice I put a little cement on there. Now we're going to go do just the opposite of how we did it in the back end. Let's see, why is that? Oh, I know why. There we go. And we're going to cut some strips again, but this is going to be, this strip that I'll cut now for the bottom of the front is going to be about as wide as the top of the abdomen. And we'll trim off points there again. I don't go to a point, I can just do a dull point. And then the chocolate one we'll trim even just a little bit wider than that. And we'll do the same thing here with trimming off a dull point. I'm surprised I remember how to tie this so well, since I haven't tied one for quite a few months. We'll take this now and we're going to go this direction. We're going to lay it over the front of the hook eye of the fly and tie the narrow end in the back. And I'll just wrap my thread up until I get right tight up against the hook eye. Just like that. And we'll get some wraps and wrap that down. Foam is a wonderful thing. You can do a lot of things with foam. Now we'll take the top piece. We'll do the same thing. Tie that down just like we did along the bottom. This one I can actually hold it down and wrap it just like I don't have to go backwards. Okay, now we'll make sure those are straight and parallel with the hook. And we're going to do two segments is all. We're going to do one that's the head, and so it's going to be fairly small. You've seen stoneflies, salmon flies, even the adults. The heads are quite small compared to the rest of the body. Do the same thing we just did to the back, only we're going the opposite direction. Now comes the tricky part, because you want to get the thread back on the hook shank and take it clear back to where the hair butts are tied in. And I like to tuck this piece of foam right up under, let it follow the contour of the actual hook itself, clear back up into the curve, so that I've got something to, so this is all out of the way. Then I can wrap that around with my fingers and take a good solid wrap around that to get that tied down in the right spot. Now you have to watch out the hair that's in the wing. so you're not getting it all fouled up or tied down wrong. Now we'll take the top piece. Let's hang on just a minute because we're going to trim this bottom piece real quick. Now, where I took the ears off of the top piece of the abdomen and the notch out of the bottom piece of the abdomen, here I'm going to take the ears off of the bottom piece of the thorax, just like that. Now you can see the reason. That's part of the thing that helps keep the fly from getting tangled in itself. So now we'll take the top piece, pull that down, and wrap that down. I'll actually cut this piece off square about the same length as that segment that I just tied. Cut it off square. Now here I'm going to do, I'm going to take the notch out. And the reason being is if you've ever seen the wing pads of salmon flies, you'll notice that they have something that looks similar to that. And that's all that is. Plus that helps the wing, the hair wing, to be able to stand up the right way without that piece of foam obstructing that. So, almost done. Last thing to do, we've got the right colored legs, black and orange, variegated rubber legs. And I know that there's some purists here that'll go, you've got to have 3 legs on each side, and I'm okay with that if you'd like to do that, but I'll let you spend the extra hour doing that. We're going to put 2 on each side, and we're going to put them right here, which is just the right spot for them. Now comes the fun part, because now you could use your whip finisher. I don't use a whip finisher at all, not ever. I do a double half hitch hand whip. Now here's the beauty of having sharp scissors. You notice I didn't shut those. All I did was touch the thread. So let's just get our legs the length that we want them. Make sure they're in the right position. Pull those up like that. Oops, I'm missing 1 out of 4. Trim those. Now, last thing I want to do is just put a drop of super glue right there where those legs are tied in. It serves to tie in the legs, plus it glues those 2 pieces of foam together. So right there you have KG's Booty Shaker Stone, which is a dry articulated stone fly. You see what happens on the water, wiggles back and forth. Great pattern. If you can ask the question, does it work? I wouldn't have written the article and wouldn't be tying them still if it didn't, because I tested it a lot. So